I'm very grateful to be back here. So thank you for having me. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for giving me 20 minutes of your time, and watching me get distracted by this little thing in my face.
Brian, is your mic on?
It is. So I'm green.
Okay, perfect.
Is it coming through?
Yep.
So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be here. Particularly thank you to those of you who I know don't necessarily frequent One World for taking the risk of your Sunday and driving out here and walking into a strange space with people you don't know. It's not a small act, so thank you for doing that. You have suffered enough. You have suffered enough. I wish we had hours to talk today so that we could dig into what maybe came up for you when you read those words or heard those words. Because I imagine something came up for you. I know it does for me. You have suffered enough. So I write on my car, actually the rear windshield of my car, you may have seen my car in the parking lot when you came in. It's something I've been doing since about 2010. It's a good story, it's a long story, it's not this story. How I do that and why I do that. But I do want to let you know that I do, because it's important to how we got here today. When I put something on the back of my car, it's not just a little saying that I think will be inspiring to some people and annoying to others or something. It's because it's something I need to be reminded of, a mantra, if you will, that I need to be reminded of as I'm trying to shift my thinking about something, shift my mind and therefore my life about something that's happening. Okay, I say that to say this. I'm sitting in my car getting ready to go into my day job, trying to get my head straight. And when I put something on the back of my car, I really coach myself too. What is that thing that if I was reminded of frequently would really help transform my world? And when I do that for other people, it's the same process. And then I put it in some kind of memorable way that fits on a windshield. Okay? And I'm sitting there in my car getting ready for work, getting my head straight, and I'm going through emails that have come through, and one's from Asha. Asha is the music director here, if you're new to One World. And I knew this email was coming. It's about 6 weeks ago, and she's like, "Hey Brian, we really need the talk title." I'm like, God, I hate giving the talk title this far out. I don't know what I'm talking about yet. And I started out as a singer-songwriter. That's sort of where my core is. My heart is in clubs and theaters when I was touring full-time. Didn't ask for my set list 6 weeks out. But I understand how it works when you're doing this kind of environment. All that to say, I sit there and I get a little grumpy for a second, then I'm like, okay, let's come up with the title. Let's come up with the title. What do we got? What do we got? And I look in my mirror, and my rear windshield says, "You have suffered enough." I was on, okay. You've suffered enough. Sing. Whoosh. That's the talk title. Oh crap. It's a little like asking for patience. And you're like, this is not going to be a fun ride. You know, I see the thing is, when I'm doing my work as a speaker or as a singer-songwriter, I do my best to show up vulnerably, authentically, honestly. But I realized in preparing for this talk that I have little sort of lines that I draw that I don't quite go that far in my sharing. And this one was tricky. Because when I was digging into "You have suffered enough" and why I put it on the back of my car, I didn't put it on the back of my car like this. "You have suffered enough." Oh. I put it on the back of my car like this. "You have suffered enough." Enough with the suffering. That's how it felt for me. It was like I was grabbing myself by the shoulders and saying, "Enough of this. Haven't you had enough? Aren't you ready for a different show? Aren't you tired of this rerun? You have suffered enough." I think you know this place of suffering. I imagine you do. It's this cloud that hangs over you. And for me, I was suffering in all these different ways, and the specifics, maybe not your specifics, of course, but I think where they kind of fall emotionally, you might be able to relate to. I was suffering from this sense of falling short. Of falling short in my life, falling short in my career, falling short in my finances, my relationships, falling short of who I thought I would be in this moment, of how I thought I'd be showing up in the world in this moment. I was suffering in this sense of falling short. I was suffering from a sense of dues paid. You know, this kind of why me? Haven't I gone through enough to have earned something different? I was suffering with these stories around having gone through bankruptcy and divorce and hospitalizations and depression and anxiety and hurricanes. I was suffering, going, isn't that enough? When's it going to change? And then ironically, on the flip side, I was suffering from self-loathing and insecurity. And who the hell do you think you are? To think that you should deserve to do something more, to have a different life, a different impact. Who do you think you are? To think you have something to share for people giving you 20 minutes of their Sunday. Who do you think you are? To think that you should write a song and share it in the world. Who do you think you are? I was suffering from that voice. I was suffering in my faith. I know, it sounds strange, but my faith teaches me that we're made from the stars, you know? That we're the stuff of the stars. And that's beautiful. And it's kind of a burden sometimes. With all the other suffering, going, I must be falling short. I must be disappointing someone, somewhere. I was suffering in hope. Suffering with the sense that it could be different, but I don't know how. And so I was suffering in that moment. And for me, suffering comes in like identity theft. You know? When it comes on, it takes over, and I don't know myself in those moments of suffering. So I imagine those specifics aren't yours, but I imagine maybe you can relate to some of that feeling of suffering, that self-doubt, that sense of why me, that sense of falling short. But then I told Asha I'd do a talk on it. I kind of had to dig into what is suffering about, where does it come from, and started exploring what people have said about suffering over the generations. What's been the perspective? What's been the human experience? Henry David Thoreau, of course, is famous. One of the things he's famous for saying is, most men lead lives of quiet discontent. Most men lead lives of quiet discontent. I find that to be true. Most people do. They have these peak moments of joy, peak moments of sorrow, perhaps, but then there's this kind of low-grade discontent and getting by and suffering that we allow in our lives. By the way, I think it would totally irritate him that he's so often quoted for that, because that was an observation, not an aspiration. He wasn't saying, let's go for that. Discontent, that sounds good. I was looking at different religions, and just about every major world religion addresses suffering. And many, if not most of them, address it like it's a ticket punch. Suffer now, but later on in some afterlife that we can't really guarantee you. If you go with our guy, paradise. Okay? And I think that's important, because what they're doing is they're saying suffering's going to happen. It has value. Hang in there. So I think there's been this collective belief in there's value in suffering. The Dalai Lama takes a little bit different approach to the value of it. He speaks of it as a gateway to greater compassion, to greater empathy for other people's experiences, for the experiences of the people in your life and a world over. So I get all that. So there's value. But I still feel like we're addressing suffering and missing that it's sort of a symptom and not the start. That suffering comes from someplace. It doesn't just suffering. It comes from someplace. And I think it comes from pain. That's fundamentally emotional, physical pain. I think that's, we know this is a wonderful cliche. Pain is inevitable, suffering is not. Okay, how? The Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus, and by the way, I've quoted him before here. I'm going to quote people today that I've quoted before because I'm trying to relearn some lessons. And I think it's important to reinforce them sometimes. So, the Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus, he's known for saying, we are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. We're not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. It's not the thing itself. It's the view we're taking of it. I recently had a moment with a dear friend of mine, not an argument, just a moment, where she was telling me that she hadn't been sharing some really important, intense things that were happening in her life with me. And I said, why? And she said, because I just felt like you were just going to tell me that I need to change my story around it and it's going to be fine. And she was like, you know, and the reality is that I am tired. I am in pain. I am lonely. I don't want to pretend it's not there and just change my story. And that was hard for me. She got to do her thing, and I got to do mine. There was some opportunities to maybe look at how am I communicating. But I said to her, that's not at all what I think. Yes, I believe that we live the story we tell about ourselves. That the story that you are thinking and sharing in the world is the story you're living. Watch the answer you give to how are you. Watch the answer you give to what's happening. Yeah, that matters. But I would never propose you not feel. You got to feel the pain. It's not a question of not feeling, it's a question of not feeding. Because when we feed the wrong story, it can take us over. There's a wonderful old story of this guy who goes to the doctor. And he goes to the doctor and he's in terrible pain. He's like, doctor, you've got to help me. I'm in such pain. You have to help me. And the doctor's like, okay, I got you. What, can you show me where it hurts? And he goes, yes, yeah, okay. It hurts here. It hurts here. It hurts here. It hurts here. It even hurts here. It hurts everywhere I touch. And the doctor says, okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I think I know what the problem is. He says, what? Your finger's broken. And I love that because in my life, I do that sometimes, right? Where it feels, it's really just my broken finger, but it feels like my whole world is broken in that moment, right? There's a wonderful line from Jerry Seinfeld in his show, Comedians and Cards Getting Coffee. Now streaming on Netflix, I totally recommend it. But in this show, he's talking, at one point he's in a conversation with Trevor Noah from The Daily Show. And they're talking about pain. And he says, I've come to the conclusion that pain is knowledge rushing in to fill a gap. Pain is knowledge rushing in to fill a gap in your knowledge. Stub your toe, knowledge. There's a table there and you're not paying attention. Meanwhile, back in the land of suffering, here's how I think that plays out. See, I'm always looking for the opportunity to make a choice in my life. I'm of the belief that it's in those moments of choice that God, the universe, whatever you like to call it, is sending me the opportunity to claim my power. It's reminding me, you have power in this moment because you have choice in this moment. Okay? And so pain is knowledge rushing in to fill a gap. How does that play out in life? Well, sometimes it's like this. Stub your toe. Ow! Oh! God! Oh, I stubbed my toe again! It's like the 6th time. Always running into that thing. I bump into everything. I'm such a klutz. Now I'm going to be late for work. I am such a hot mess. You know that experience where it's like one little thing goes wrong and you're like, it's all awful. I am obviously ruined because I just spilled coffee. You know, it's all over. Now there's another opportunity, however. Stub my toe. Ow! Oh! I switched toes. Stub my toe. And I'm like, ow! Oh! Feeling the pain. Oh! Ooh! Ow! That's smart. That's like the 6th time I've done that. Why do I keep doing that? Ooh! I am not paying attention to where I'm going. I think I must be doing too much at once. I gotta slow down. Also, I think I'm gonna move the coffee table. Because I keep running into it. See, in one scenario, that pain, which is pain, you can't avoid it, it's going to happen. In one scenario, that pain becomes an indictment of everything in your world. In another scenario, that pain becomes information. What I'm suggesting, and as I've been exploring my own suffering, is I'm suggesting that we need a paradigm shift. Paradigm, of course, being a basic set of beliefs, the way we think the world works. We need to shift. I think that there's a basic paradigm we're holding, and that is discomfort, bad. We think discomfort is dysfunction. I don't think that's true. We also, by the way, tend to think that joy is dysfunction. I think we tend to treat them both as anomalies, rather than recognizing that they're going to happen in our lives, and that they're there to give us information. If I can take that pain, feel it, and I'm saying that's not an easy thing. I'm talking about do the crying. Curl up on a ball on your floor and cry it out if you need to, whatever's going on. Feel the pain. And then look at where is it coming from. Every time I get up to go to work in the morning, I feel a sense of dread. Why do you keep pushing through that? Why not stop and be with that? What's it trying to tell you? And I watched the sunset last week. For one night, I felt so centered and peaceful and calm. I do that like once a month. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I could do that more often. Maybe there's an opportunity because there's information waiting for me there. The trick is to shift away from the notion of discomfort as dysfunction, to shift away from the notion of joy as dysfunction, and shift into the notion that they both are offering you information. They're both come bearing gifts. Okay, the normal of our lives doesn't inform us nearly as well as the moments of pain and the moments of joy. They're the ones that are telling us how to guide the ship, if you will. You did not come here to suffer. You have suffered enough. You did not come here to suffer. I can't prove that. I have no empirical proof. I have no objective proof. And I'm a big fan of objective proof. I'm a big fan of being able to point to data. Here's the double-blind study that shows that we did not come here to suffer. I can't do that. What I can share with you is that it seems evident to me, and I imagine in your life as well, that there are times of agony that I'd like less of. And there are times of joy that I would like more of. And if that's the case, and I can make a choice between the two, why would I choose to suffer? Why would I choose the agony? And if I know that I can transform the nature of that pain by digging into it and exploring what it might have to offer, why would I choose any other path? That's the gift it comes bearing. So that's the only proof that I have, except for the God thing. And the God thing is important. And I don't care whether you call God Buddha or Yoda or Jesus or Steve Jobs or I don't care what you call it. What I care about is the experience of awe, the experience of that lift. Those moments when you just take your breath away. You're like, I don't know what just happened, but that was amazing. That's where I find God speaking to me. There's a wonderful passage from Marianne Williamson in her book, A Return to Love, that we say over and over and over again in rooms like this, and I never tire of saying it. It's in her Return to Love was her first book really digging into A Course in Miracles and interpreting it. And she offers in that this passage, our deepest fear, that I will share some of. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are strong beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, talented, gorgeous, fabulous? Who are you not to be? Who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. You have suffered enough. You have suffered enough. We are all made to shine as children do. It's not in some of us, it's in all of us. You were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within, the awe that is within, that lift that is within. In the time you have left, you have suffered enough. You did not come here to suffer. And the pain that we've been pushing back on, and the joy we've been saying, oh, but that's not really going to last. They aren't anomalies, they're gifts the universe is handing you. They're saying, here's the information, here's your secret decoder ring for your unique, one-of-a-kind experience on this planet. And the universe is saying, you have suffered enough. You feel the pain, feel the joy, and choose what you want to feed. That is the path. You are not one beat late on that path. You were born to shine, and you have suffered enough. I want to share a song with you that came up for me around the same time that I had that on the back of the car. I've been doing music for a long time. It's been an interesting journey the last several years. I had the great honor of touring full-time for well over a decade, and then I went through a bankruptcy and some other stuff that kind of threw me off my path, and then I started kind of getting back into it, and then I went through some Bell's palsy, which janked my voice, and it's been an interesting ride. Speaking of identity theft, I've been given the opportunity to sort of explore who I am, what's the source of that identity, and this kind of came out of that. It was about me, but it's also about a lot of other people, I think. Let it speak for itself. Get you out of the way here. I'll just wrap up with this. Time always goes quicker than I'd like it to. I get the chance to serve like this. Look that's in your eyes, thoughts all dressed in black. You got your mind going where there ain't no coming back. But you're a bird upon the sand, running from the ocean's grasp, forgetting that your ticket out's there folded up upon your back. So give up your fears, give up your doubts, give up the thought that you were born to learn to live without. Give up your pain, cross you carved into your heart. These are the only things you should give up, and give up now. I stood on the ground, you stand, tied up and walked inside those shoes. I know the bite of every rock and stone when it finally gets to cutting through. Stick to the path ahead, trust that the storms will come and pass. Even the darkest nights just there so the stars get to come out and dance. So give up your fears, give up your doubts, give up the thought that you were born to learn to live without. Give up your pain, the cross you carved into your heart. These are the only things you should give up, and give up now. I ain't speaking out of turn, I am the dream of you that yearns, the ghost that rattles in your head, keeps you tossing in your bed, with a lesson still unlearned, an ache inside that burns, the thought that's in your head, the only distance left to tread. Thought that's in your head, the only distance. So give up your fears, give up your doubts, give up the thought that you were born to learn to live without. Give up the pain, cross you carved into your heart. These are the only things you should give up, and give up now. Give up your fears, give up your doubts, give up the thought that you were born carved into your heart. These are the